Hey guys, this is Kieran from Server.pro, and today you're watching the second episode of our how to set up a basic faction server tutorial. So in the first episode we covered how to install a world with a spawn. We also set the spawn point for the world, we made ourselves OP, and we installed a couple of plugins with Spigot and Craft Bucket. So now let's get straight into the episode. So in this episode we're going to be protecting this spawn with World Guard, and we're also going to be smoothing out the edge of the world with World Edit so it looks all natural, so it doesn't look like it's been modified. And we're also going to be changing a few server settings and probably installing a couple more plugins. So let's protect the spawn with World Guard. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you're OP, which we did in the previous episode. Then once you've done that, we'll need to use the wand from World Edit. So if you press enter to open the chat and then type //wand, and then you should be given a wooden axe, as you can see here. So now what we're going to do is select the corners of this spawn. So we're going to go to this corner over here, and then we're just going to grab a block. So if we just go in here, and we're going to place it on the very corner here. So place it there, and then we're going to select it with the wooden axe. So do a left click to select the first position, and then what we're going to do is go to the opposite side. And then once we're here, we're going to make sure we're in this block area here, so we're in this coordinate, and then we're just going to fly up just above the spawn. And then once we're just above the spawn by a couple of blocks, we're going to type //pos2. And then that will set the second position. So now that we've set the first and second positions, we can type /rg create, and this is creating a region. So we're going to type the name of the region. So because this is the spawn, I'm just going to type spawn. And now we've protected that world. So when a new player joins the server now, they will no longer be able to break blocks in this region. So now that we've created the spawn, you don't want people to be able to PvP in the spawn area. You only want people to be able to PvP outside of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to disable PvP using the World Guard flags. So you can do this by typing /rg flag and then the region name. So this one is called spawn. If you call it something else, use that name, and then type the flag. So in this case it's PvP, and then we're going to set it to deny. So that means we're going to deny people from PvPing in this area. So if you click enter, you can see that we've set PvP to deny. So now if I had another player on the server, I would be unable to PvP them in this area. We're also going to enable invincibility in this area. So that means that players won't be able to die, and it also means that when people are in the PvP area, people won't be able to shoot arrows up here and damage players that are in the spawn. So to do this, again, just type the similar command. So if you press the up arrow, it brings up the last command that you wrote, and then we're going to type invincible, and then we're going to type allow. So this sets the area to be invincible. So any player in this area now can't die. So now we're just going to enable a couple of other flags, and I'm not going to go through them all, but I'm going to fast forward it so you can see what commands I'm typing, just so you can apply these flags too. These flags are just to prevent the spawn from being damaged by mobs. So as you can see, I disabled other explosion, creeper explosion, enderman grief, mob damage, and fire spread. So this just prevents the spawn from being damaged by mobs or other players that are using, for example, cannonballs that they could be firing back into the spawn. So now that we've protected the spawn, I'd like to protect the war zone. So on faction servers, after the drop down, you usually don't want players to be able to build in this area or for quite far, as people start building huge towers right in front of the spawn, and it ruins the look of the server and prevents new players from wanting to play on the server too, and it also just makes the server look a bit rubbish. So what we're going to do is we're going to go quite far away so that players can't build within a certain area. So if we set our speed to 10, it helps increase how fast we can move, so we can go a bit further, and I'm going to go just about as far as this. So you can see here, you can see the spawn is just going out of my render distance. So what I'm going to do here is type //pos1, and this sets the position 1. So now we're going to go to the opposite side, the opposite corner of the map, to a similar distance. You can work it out perfectly if you want to, but I'm just going to be doing it off a rough estimate based on my render distance. So as you can see about here, so then I'm just going to set position 2. So //pos2, and that's set to position 2. So now that we've selected the 2 points and making sure that they're opposite each other, we want to select it so it goes all the way down to bedrock and all the way to the top of the sky. So the way you do this is type //expand and then vert. So that means it expands it vertically up and down. So if you click enter, that's expanded it from top to bottom, from the very bottom of the world to the very top. So now that we've done this, we can do /rg create, and then we can type warzone or call it whatever you want, but on faction servers it's generally called a warzone, so just call it that if you want to, and then click enter. So now we've created this area. So now that we've created this area, we need to set the priority so that the spawn region goes on top of the warzone region, if that makes sense. Because we've disabled PvP in the spawn region, we want to make sure that the warzone doesn't overwrite that. So if we just set our speed back to, let's say, 2, just make it a bit easier. So the way priorities work with World Guard is that the higher the number, the higher the priority. So if you give the spawn region a higher priority than Warzone, that means the flags in this area will overwrite the ones in the Warzone. So what we want to do is we want to type /rg set priority and then select the region name. So we called it spawn. So you type spawn and then we're going to set it to, let's say, 100. You can set it to whatever number you like though, as long as it's higher than Warzone. And then the default number for regions is 0. So now the Warzone should be set to 0 and the spawn is 100. So any flag in spawn overwrites the Warzone. So now if I had another player on the server and I was to stand here and we were to stand next to each other, we wouldn't be able to PvP each other. But if we stand down here, we should be able to PvP each other. So now what you also want to do is you want to copy the flags from the spawn region to the Warzone region so that explosions can't happen. So the easiest way to do this is by going to the control panel. So if you go to the control panel, then go to the file manager, then go to the plugins folder, then go to the world guard folder, worlds, and then we want to go into the name of your world. So if it's called factions world like mine is, go inside of that and then open the regions.yml file. So now what you want to do is you want to copy the flags from the spawn. So as you can see here, they're all listed. So let's just copy them all. And then we're just going to highlight those brackets there as we've copied the other brackets and paste on top of them. So paste there, and we're also going to allow PvP. So if you change PvP : deny to PvP allow, and then click save, and then if we go in game, and we type /rg reload, it will apply those new flags to the Warzone. So with World Guard, there's a command called /rg info. So if we type that, it tells us the information for the region that we're stood in. So as you can see, we're stood in the Warzone, and it does indeed have all those flags applied, and it does have PvP set to allow. So now if we go into the spawn one just to check it's all working, type /rg info spawn, and then because we're standing in several regions, you need to type the name of it. So if you type that, you can see that all the flags are still there as well. So now that we've protected the spawn area and the Warzone, it means that people can't build for a good amount of distance. So now that we've done this, we need to make sure that people can actually get there. As you can see with this spawn that I have, there's a huge layer of world here which isn't like the normal world because it's been edited and world edited. So what we're going to use a tool called smooth to smooth that out. So with World Guard, we're going to use the brush and use the smooth tool. So if you type /brush and then smooth, and then if we go up to these blocks, you should be able to start maneuvering them so that it looks more natural. So if we just go around the entire spawn doing this to make it a lot better, it should work and it should look nice and neat. So let's just go around and do this for all around the spawn. And we're also going to want to cover up little things like this that could allow people to get underneath the spawn. So as you can see with big ones like this, it may take quite a lot of clicking to make it look natural. And then if there are trees in the way, you will want to remove them as well, as it'll start moving the leaf blocks, which doesn't look too good. So as you can see, I've quickly gone around with the brush and smooth tool just to make it all look a tiny bit nicer. So if we just go into speed 10, you can see what I've done here. We've just made it look a bit more natural than just a straight wall going up. You can go ahead and start building at it yourself if you want to. I might do it outside of this tutorial for the next episode. As you can see here, the lakes and stuff don't quite match up, so I might edit it a bit more. But that's roughly the idea that you go with, and feel free to build some things like if you want to, and build some little huts or some little holes, maybe some lava pits for PvP, just to increase the fun on your server. Feel free to go ahead and do that. So once you've finished doing all the editing with the brush tool and smoothing, you'll need to make sure that you unbind the command from your hand. So I had it applied to my hand. If you had it applied to maybe a grass block, you just need to hover over that grass block so you have it in your hand, or if you were using your hand like I was, make sure you've got a blank space in your hotbar and then type /none, and this will take the item or the command from your hand so that it's no longer in use. So now if I was to right click here, it should no longer smooth the object. So now we've pretty much finished editing our world. We've got a spawn with a World Guard protected region, and the area around our spawn is nice and protected, and it's also nicely laid out so that it almost looks like a natural world and it blends in quite nicely. So once you've done this, let's go ahead and install some more plugins. So if you go back to the control panel and then go to the plugins tab, and now we're going to be installing factions and massive core. So if you search for factions under bucket plugins, click search and then click install latest, and then if you go under the spigot plugins tab and then search for massive core, and it should come up here. So Massive Core is needed for factions to work. So once you've clicked install latest, go to the installed plugins, and you'll notice that Massive Core has installed a couple of other plugins that we don't need. So if you go ahead and remove Vampire, Massive Tickets, Massive Hat, and Massive Books, and Creative Gates, as you don't need these. You can use them if you want to, but we're not going to be using them in this tutorial series. So once you've installed these, click restart, and that should load the plugins, and it should save all the progress that we've made on the server so far. So once you've restarted your server and you've given it some time to start up, go to the console and type mcore sponsor, and then this will disable the sponsor message associated with Massive Core to prevent your server from having weird announcements that you don't need. Then once you've done that, feel free to join your server and take a look at some of the commands available for factions. So I've just joined my server and all of the factions commands should now be working, so you should be able to create a faction. So if I just go ahead and do /fhelp, you should see that the factions commands are working and they are all displaying. So now what we want to do is that we want to block the command /fclaim in the spawn area, as at the moment if we type /fmap you can see where the factions are. Now because this is a fresh installation, there are going to be no factions displayed, but if there were players on this server and they joined and created a faction, they would be able to start claiming plots around the spawn, which you don't want to happen as that can cause some problems. So what you want to do is you want to use world guard flags to block the command fclaim. So if you type /rg and then flag and then the region name, so spawn and then blocked CMDs, and then we're going to type /fclaim just like that, and then click enter, and that should apply the flag. And we also want to apply this flag to the warzone so that people can't do the command in the warzone too. So if we just go ahead and do that. And now, if you're not OP, so if I de-out myself, and then if I try to claim a plot, fclaim, you can see that it says fclaim is not allowed in this area, and then if I go into the war zone, it should say the same thing. And as you can see, it does. So if you wanted to block other commands, you can actually use this same command to do so. So if you wanted to block another one, you would just type again with the command rg flag warzone blocked commands, and then /fclaim, and then type comma, and then / the next command. So say if you wanted to block the command, I don't know, heal, you would type that, and you could do another. Just keep going on like that. You can block as many as you want, but we're just going to only be blocking fclaim, so I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, so that's how you block commands with world guard, and it's how you protect your spawn from malicious players that are looking to cause some harm. So that's it for this episode. So we've successfully protected our spawn, we've made the area around the spawn look nice, we've set up factions so that it's now working on our server, and again we've protected the spawn from people claiming it with factions along with the war zone. So in the next episode we're going to be doing some more administration things. We're going to be setting up maybe kits, we'll have a touch on permissions, we'll set up an MOTD, and we'll cover some other things as well. So make sure you're tuned in for next week's episode. So thank you for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode and it was helpful for you. So thank you for watching. I hope that you have a great day. Goodbye.